on this episode of the WildFed podcast.
New Zealand is a fascinating beast. We can hunt year-round. There's no licenses. Everything we hunt is exotic.
The moa was a large flightless bird that was extirpated by the Maori.
A couple of different species, but they were certainly standing taller than men.
It hurts to know that we were so close to experiencing that.
The first Europeans that came for seal and for whale.
To me, these things all interrelate. Hunting is fitness and nutrition, all wrapped up in an incredible pursuit.
Let's dissociate people even further from the things that really make them human. Be happy to work away, get your little tray of like lab-grown steak.
The direction that people are moving is so dystopian. It's amazing, not just the speed and willingness, but like almost the frothing at the mouth to get there.
I would like to know that in my home, I have the right to defend myself. To me, it's the same category as saying that I have the human ancestral right to go out into nature and feed myself from the landscape.
Episode 166 of the WildFed podcast, Hunting New Zealand with Philipp Spahn, is brought to you by Surthrival. Man, I'm excited to introduce a new product at surthrival.com. We've teamed up with Hammond's Black Walnuts, and after a year of behind-the-scenes work, I'm proud to finally introduce Surthrival's Black Walnut Protein Powder. This is the most exciting new product I've seen in my 15 years in the health food and nutritional supplement industry. I've been using it for over 6 months every morning in my smoothie and loving it more each day. It fortifies my blended drinks with 17 grams of wild protein per scoop. But the story is even more incredible because the black walnuts in our protein powder are hand foraged from wild native trees. There's no fertilizer, no irrigation, no pesticides used anywhere in the process. No agricultural land is used either, so no habitat is disrupted to produce these nuts. All the foragers are volunteers paid by the pound for their harvests. In other words, when you invest in Surthrival's Black Walnut Protein Powder, it's not just an investment in your health. You're investing in wild lands, wild species, healthy ecosystems, and the people who tend to them. I can honestly say it's hands down the most ethically sourced and produced protein product ever made. It's also the cleanest because we use the same ultra pure CO2 extraction process used in high-end cannabis extracts. This yields a light colored raw protein powder far superior to the ones made with higher heat expeller pressing. It's a very fine flour too, so we've used it in more than just smoothies. My wife's been baking it into cookies and muffins, turning them into wild protein fortified snacks, and she uses it in her oatmeal at breakfast too. I'm excited to see all the recipes you come up with using this really versatile ingredient. Wild North American native trees, 100% grown and processed in the USA. Sometimes it feels too good to be true. We've managed to bring a wild, hand-foraged, native North American food to people in a format they can easily use to fortify their diets daily. Head over to surthrival.com to check out the entire product line and use the coupon code WildFed to get an additional 5% off your order. Surthrival's Black Walnut Protein Powder, the first wild protein powder on the market ever. Do you need an antidote to the metaverse? We just launched our newest t-shirt design over at wild-fed.com. It features our antidote to the metaverse tagline on the chest, a WildFed badge on the sleeve, and 2 tarot-style cards juxtaposed on the back, one modeled on the tarot card known as the Fool, who's wearing an Oculus and absent-mindedly walking off the roof of a building with a bag of fast food in one hand and a cell phone in the other. Next to it is a card based on the Magician, who's juggling 4 implements, a fishing rod, a rifle, a trap, and a foraging basket. It represents our belief that a life that includes the outdoors inoculates you against believing that an artificial experience of life could ever replace a natural one. You see, for us, being wild-fed, hunting, fishing, and foraging is about a lot more than just getting our groceries. It's an antidote to the metaverse, an act of rebellion against the transhuman agenda that is leading humanity to abandon the natural world in favor of wearing screens over their eyes to live in a virtual one. We choose the natural over the artificial. We choose an antidote to the metaverse. We choose to be fed by the wild. Check out our new shirt at wild-fed.com. I'm Daniel Vitalis, and you're listening to the WildFed podcast, a show about reconnecting with nature through hunting, fishing, foraging, and food. WildFed. Food is all around you. Philipp, Spahn, and I have been chatting on Instagram for years. Like me, he's a modern-day hunter-gatherer that loves to pursue wild foods in many diverse ways across the landscape where he lives. Also, like me, he arrived at Wild Foods through a background in health, nutrition, and exercise. And like me, he's also documenting what he does in video form, which he presents on his YouTube channel, The Wild Table. Unlike me, he's in New Zealand, which has a radically different hunting and fishing management system, a diverse bestiary of game species that are almost exclusively non-native, and a radically different landscape and culture to contend with. This was our first time actually connecting for a conversation, so it's a bit of a get to know you as well as my crash course into New Zealand's hunting culture. For those raised in the North American model, it's a shocking departure from the conservation we practice here. For instance, there's no hunting license needed. You can shoot geese with a rifle, and with all the game being exotic, there aren't even seasons on most species. Even though this was our first time talking, Philipp felt like an old friend. You can find him on Instagram at wild_heart_hunter and at the.wild.table. And hopefully, if all goes well, you'll see him in a future episode of the WildFed TV show as well. Philipp, you've got to put me on some of those wild kiwis soon, bro.
Philipp Spahn, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks very much. I'm happy to connect with you.
Yeah, likewise, man. We've been chatting on Instagram now for several years, haven't we? I guess it's been a few.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been, I think it must be probably 6 years or so, you know?
Yeah. You've been an awesome support and kind of like just always been high-fiving me as we've gotten WildFed out there. And then I've got to sort of watch you put your YouTube channel together and the Wild Table. So it's been really cool to watch you doing your thing in New Zealand while I do my thing over here in the States. Tell people about what you're doing over there.
Yeah, so you know, I guess the answer to that question depends on the time of the week you're asking me. So I'm a landscaper by trade, but we've been for the last year and a half really strongly focusing on creating content around wild food, sort of not too dissimilar to yourself. Hunting, fishing, foraging, and then we've been creating YouTube content on it. And also recently we've started producing a lot of sort of food style reels for Instagram and TikTok and those kind of social media platforms.
Bless your heart for your ability to tolerate those forms of media. I wake up every day thinking I should be doing more of that kind of thing, but it's very difficult for me to get into the spirit of it. But you seem to be tackling it very well.
You know what? I don't blame you an ounce. And to be perfectly honest with you, if I saw another way, like for instance, the YouTube, it's definitely my preferred medium. I would love to. Actually, you know what? I'm going to backtrack that first. Your show, WildFed, is phenomenal, man. I absolutely love your work. Hey, and
thank you.
We've finally just gotten to see season 2.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, because it now runs to the Outdoor TV, right?
Right. Yeah, myoutdoortv.com.
And so that works for us. But the other streaming channel is only in the US.
Right.
So I've been super annoyed about not being able to watch it.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize about international licensing. My wife's from Canada, so even when we cross the border, your accounts, like let's say you have a Netflix account or something, and you get up to Canada, if your IP address is now a Canadian address, there's like so much content you can't stream anymore.
Wow.
And I don't know if people fully realize that. You have like country-based stuff and then regional stuff and then, continental and all of that, Europe versus the States, all that stuff. So I know one of the things you've been writing about for a long time is like, hey man, how can I see the show? And it's been frustrating. That said, one of the benefits you have is that you're accessible to everybody via those social media platforms and YouTube. Whereas for us, I mean, getting onto cable has been such a blessing and also such a curse in a way because so few people actually have the ability to see the show. So I constantly hear from people like, man, I really want to watch your show, but I don't have access to cable, or how can I see it? So whereas, what people want is something like YouTube that they can all just go to and see. So,
but that's the thing, right? And it's all free, whereas I think what you guys are doing, if I had the choice, I would definitely do what you do. And the point I was trying to make is what you guys do with the show is just so beautiful. You guys have struck such a nice balance between the sort of the action and the anticipation and the and the hunting side of things, and then also slowing things right down and sort of really portraying the beauty of nature. There's a lot of, you guys put a lot of like slow-mo shots into your show. And if you compare that to TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff, where you have like a minute and a half, which
Right.
is stupid. It's just, you can convey so much more of a message and so much more beauty, which is what it's about, right? Like
I think that's what it's about for you and me, and a lot of the people who are the type of people who are listening in right now. But when you look at the content that's been created around hunting, particularly and fishing in the past, it's not necessarily what people were doing, right? It's like they're really trying. I almost think it's like more like, traditionally it's been more like pornography or something.
Yeah.
And it all leads up to this one, scene at the end where it's like, versus I think, we're trying to capture something a little bit differently and then maybe inspire something too.
Yeah, precisely. And that's, this is why I follow your work, and why I've been following your work for such a long time. It's because I think the hunting and fishing space particularly needs an overhaul, right? And it really needs characters like yourself. And what I find really interesting, because like hunting and fishing, worldwide, but particularly in the US, has been getting a little bit of a facelift recently, right? With
Majorly,
guys like, guys like Donnie Vincent coming to the scene, and Steve Ranella.
Even Joe Rogan getting involved in it, I think.
Yep, exactly. Which, and all of those characters sort of have a number of things in common. And for me, what sort of stands out is a certain degree of sort of, I guess, emotional availability.
Sure.
And a certain softness, that in that sort of traditional model of hunting stuff, where it's all about that final moment, the grip and grin, and the and that kill shot. You just don't get that. There's kind of like this, like, overtone, like masculine approach. And it's not nice.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I had likened it to pornography before, and I think pornography is a type of media where you don't show vulnerability ever.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think the hunting space was like that for a long time. I think Ranella kind of maybe was the first one to, in a mainstream way, kind of change that a little bit, which paved the way, which is great for someone like me who's such a novice. I look at somebody like him, and he's as good as it gets, basically. And here I come along. I get to, my show opens for his show on Monday nights, and it's like, yikes. It's like, I'm pretty new at this, and I make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes get captured and they become part of the episode, which is sometimes really cringy for me. Actually, just before we jumped on this call, I was editing for season 3 and reading voiceovers, and it's just like me doing some stupid, just the most amateur stuff, and it's like, it's really embarrassing. But it's going to be, and it's going to go out there, and I just have to suck that up, because it is what happened. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, right? You like that sort of level of like vulnerability, man. It's if we're like, I guess like your work and to a much smaller degree, my work is about getting people interested in hunting and fishing again, right? And like these characters are quite often late adult onset hunters like ourselves. Like I only started at 30,
How old are you
and
now?
39 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they need that. I think they need that level of vulnerability and like mistakes. I like it. I watch your show and I like it.
I like it when I see it in other people. So that gives me like hope that it's going to play okay. But sometimes it's hard, there's stuff where it's just like, do we have to air this episode? Can we just do another episode? And it's like, no, dude, we have a budget.
I totally understand, for sure. Like we're the same. Like we try to, put so much content out there on YouTube, and a lot of the episodes, I fully understand what you mean.
Who's filming for you? Or is that?
So all the filming is my partner Cheska, which which is super interesting. We got together a couple of years ago, and one of the first things we did together was we went on a fishing trip. It was like a trout fishing trip. It was like a super quiet, beautiful backcountry river here in New Zealand. We were camping, and she took a lot of pictures on that trip, and we sort of got back and posted all that stuff on Instagram. And heaps of my friends and family were like, "Hey, that's so cool! You guys should be doing this all the time." And then I told her,
You were stoked too, right? You're like, get to have all that content.
oh yeah,
It's the best.
totally. Right?
It's the best when somebody hands you a bunch of great photos. You're like, oh, this is going to be wonderful.
Yeah, because like, before that, you're trying to do it all over yourself. You set up tripods and things, and it's just so hard to do.
It's complicated, right? Yeah.
But yeah, she took to it. And so I have a really good friend who's very successful on YouTube, and he sort of gave me his startup gear. He gave me his camera and stuff like that. And I told her that I had the stuff sitting around. It'd been sitting in my lounge for like a year prior to that. And she was like, "Hey, why don't we try filming?" We didn't have a clue about editing. We didn't have a clue about filming.
And she didn't have any background working cameras.
No, zero.
Yeah, no kidding. Cool. Okay.
No, zero. But she's so into it, and she's just passed her firearms license here in New Zealand. So she's going to be able to get her own firearm soon, and she's sort of just been slowly but surely also getting in front of the camera a little bit.
Cool.
So yeah, it's been a really cool journey.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to hear. I want to go back to actually just because you were complimenting the show before, and I just want to say I get to be I'm like the front person in the band, so it's like I get the recognition. But man, I mean, my producers, my cinematographers, it's like the team makes that content. So that's why I was so curious, like how you're filming, because things look good because of the Grant, Oliver, the different cinematographers we work with. They're so good on the camera. So it's like they make things look as beautiful as they are in real life. And sometimes they make things look more beautiful. Like sometimes we'll be at a place and it's like, oh, this is kind of dumpy looking. And then I'll see it on camera and it's like, wow, the cameras make things look really beautiful. Like maybe it's like a beautiful landscape, but we're at some crappy lodge or something. And it's like, it'll look good in the camera, but that all comes from them. And so, it's like such a team thing to produce high quality content if you're a host, because it's so hard to film yourself. So that's pretty cool what you guys are doing. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the backstory. You had mentioned the firearms license, so I want to make sure we get back to that, because it's very fascinating being in the States and hearing about gun culture in other countries. So I'd like to hear about that. But you said you started, what did you say, 30? What was the journey that led you to start getting involved in wild foods and hunting, fishing, things like that?
Yeah. So as I was, actually I didn't say it on here, but I'm from Germany originally. I was born in Germany.
You have a little bit of a German accent? Or is that all New Zealand? I kind of hear both.
Yeah, there's a big mix in there. I don't think I have a particularly strong German accent, but I also dated a Canadian girl for quite a long time, and I tend to sort of copy accents a little bit. It's just kind of my.
I hear like a twinge of. At first, I only heard New Zealand, but now I hear like a twinge of Germany.
Yeah, I actually don't think I don't have a New Zealand accent. That's it's probably more. Anyway, it's a mix of things. But yeah, so I came to New Zealand when I was 16, which was a sort of a crazy time to be moving, not just countries but continents. Just coming to like a totally different place. And for
with your family, or?
Yeah, with my family. Yeah, so my mom actually decided to pack up, and she took myself and my 3 siblings and moved here on her own, which was a big journey, to say the least. Yeah. She's a powerhouse.
I guess, yeah.
And we came to New Zealand, and so the one thing that I had going for me at the time is in Germany. I grew up in the countryside, so I already had access to like freshwater fishing. My stepdad, when I was younger, would take me out and we'd catch carp and perch and pike and that sort of stuff. And so I feel like the seed for the love to the outdoors and the love of fishing had been sown like reasonably early on, but it wasn't the kind of family, like much like yourself, I think, it wasn't the kind of family where we would go out lots and do really sort of get into the hunting and fishing side of things. Certainly not the hunting. I came to New Zealand, I lived for the first 14 years of my life here in New Zealand in Auckland, which is the sort of the biggest city. And I got really into fitness. That was sort of my thing. I was teaching fitness and I was living and breathing fitness. And
what
that's
kind of
all
fitness
I did.
were you into?
So I sort of started traditionally with like a personal training type of deal, just working out of gyms and just throwing around dumbbells. And then eventually I sort of found my own space through martial arts and through, I sort of did a little bit of training in the gymnastics space, learning how to do,
cool.
Just rings and that kind of stuff. And eventually I founded my own gym, which was a sort of a CrossFit type setup, I suppose, which I think you've just been getting into that kind of stuff recently too, eh?
It's hard to talk about because it's such a culty space that, and I just sound like another I happen to be at a really, really good CrossFit gym, and I
Yeah.
understand they're not all really good, but yeah, I'm over the moon about it right now.
Yeah. Well, the gym that I was running was the style of training. So it was that sort of really, kettlebells, tires, sledgehammers, muscle up rings and bars, and was really heavily focused on just body weight training, a lot of push-ups, a lot of burpees, a lot of sprints, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a CrossFit, but it was the same. It was the same idea.
Yeah, sure. Same concepts.
And I did that until I was, I think, 28 or 29. And then I got really sick. I got really sick. I developed chronic fatigue, and just training was no longer possible.
What do you think happened there? Was it overtraining? Was it
Definitely overtraining, no
It's easy to do?
periodization, yeah, no
Yeah.
rest. I definitely wasn't looking after my diet. I was taking no supplements,
Oh, no
um,
kidding. Okay, gotcha.
and I sort of had that dumb mentality of just push, 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 go through it. And every time I'd get fatigued, I would just tell myself to suck it up and get back out there, and
Grind it out.
grind it out. So
Yeah.
stupid. And my body packed up. And I had to leave. I sold my shares in the gym, and I was like, I got to get out of here. My partner at the time was Canadian. And so we actually went over to Canada for a little bit.
What part of Canada?
She's from Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
And then we sort of just traveled around a little bit, saw her family in Alberta, and went to the coast, BC. And it sort of just gave me a little bit of time to reflect on what I really wanted to do. Like, I knew I was done with fitness. I was like, this is just, I put everything into it, and I was like, I'm done. This is finished. But, especially being in Canada too, it just reminded me of this thirst to get out there and hunt. I really wanted to start hunting. It was probably the most dominating thought in my mind at the time. Was like, I really want to get myself a rifle, and I want to learn how to hunt. And so when we came back to New Zealand, we're like, where the hell are we going to go? And no idea. No idea what to do work-wise, no idea what to do. All I knew that is I really wanted to move somewhere where hunting was going to be a possibility. So we moved south. So we live on the North Island of New Zealand, and going south for us is as you go south in New Zealand, it gets colder. So the far north of the North Island is actually quite tropical, and then it starts getting colder as you move south. So we started going south to the Hawke's Bay. And down there is a lot of fly fishing, a lot of hunting, that kind of stuff. And I just got into it. My family helped me out by sort of gifting me some things. I think I got a scope for my birthday, and picked up a rifle and just taught myself step by step how to hunt, which was yep.
Can I break in on this for a second? I have fitness has always been really important to me, but I also kind of hit a wall with it at one point, and I got very interested in, as you know, into hunting and fishing and foraging more deeply. And I sidestepped pretty hard, pivoted away from that life. Also as health and nutrition, all those things were like my whole world. But I had the same kind of drive you're describing, where it was like, man, I really need to go do this. Yeah. I really want to learn to hunt. And so I kind of stepped away from all of those things. I think what's happening for me now is I'm like integrating the two together. But for a while, I just stopped really thinking about fitness, and I was just relying on my time in the outdoors, which was awesome, and I needed it. I'm curious how that was for you from a identity perspective, because of course, like the way our egos work, we get ourselves wrapped up in an identity that's based on things we do, or things we get compliments for, or what we perceive our talents to be, or whatever. And that's who we are. And then something changes, and it's like identity crisis. So how was that moment? I guess two things. One is like, how was that transitioning away from a world where you had worked your way up, you'd, been a gym owner and all those kind of things. That's like one piece of it. And then also going from being sort of an expert in your field into a field where you're a complete novice. How was that transition?
It was extremely challenging in a lot of ways. I should say too, like the gym that we were running in Auckland wasn't just a gym. It was like incredibly popular. We actually had a lot of like celebrities showing up, and because I sort of sometimes do a little bit of modeling and maybe like some acting for some commercials sometimes, and which I'd been doing for quite a number of years while I was running my gym. So there was that sort of connection to that kind of glamorous world, So Like talking about ego being wrapped up, man, like that gym for me, it was just a total ego drive, and like certainly by the time we got to sort of the top of what we were doing, I was so invested in it and so wrapped up in it. So when I started getting sick, I was losing myself, and I was losing everything that you said, like people were complimenting me for, everything that I felt like I was a master at.
Right.
I just
what kind of
disappeared.
sick were you getting?
Just chronic fatigue. I would get up and teach and then go straight back to bed. And like, I think at the worst time of it, I was sleeping probably like 18 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, I was toast.
Yeah.
I was done,
Yeah.
And then moving away from that, and like, first of all, having to find a new career. I bummed around for a while. I got into arborism because I could climb and I had my climbing gear, so I got into doing that kind of stuff, which is super physical, and it just exhausted me even further. Then I got into landscaping, and I had to teach myself like building. I had to teach myself how to like build decks and fences and all that kind of stuff. And it was humble pie. It was a generous serving of humble pie. But the hunting side of things, I didn't sort of have too much of a. I think probably because I did a lot of it on my own, so I didn't have people around me who I was comparing myself to.
Mm-hmm.
I just went out all the time. And like, as soon as I got my license, New Zealand is a fascinating beast in terms of what you can do here hunting wise. We can hunt year round. There's no licenses apart from your firearms license. We have 7 different species of deer you can hunt, and numerous other species of stuff. So,
is there anything you guys are hunting that's native, or is everything you hunt exotic to the island?
Everything we hunt is exotic. Everything that's
why there's no limits, because you're dealing with animals that aren't part of that landscape. If I understand it, what I've always heard, jump in, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I've always heard that when Europeans started to colonize New Zealand, they brought all these animals as a way of sort of enticing with familiarity the people they wanted to come, because it was such a foreign place. And so it was like, hey, let's bring a little bit of everything. Is there any truth to that, or how did that all play out? Because all these species that are there now seem to have taken quite well to the landscape.
Oh my God, it's perfect for them, right? So that's exactly how it played out. Europeans came and brought. I wouldn't be able to tell you the chronological timeline exactly of what species came when, but sure. It was rabbits, and then it was goats. When the Maori first came here, the Polynesians, they already brought with them the Polynesian rat and the Polynesian dog, and then Europeans started importing.
Did they bring pigs?
I don't know. I don't know if it was the Europeans or the Polynesians, but certainly pigs arrived. And
I know in Hawaii there's some like debate about whether the Hawaiians brought pigs or the Polynesians brought pigs or the Europeans did. But I think the voyagers were bringing pigs around some places, it seems like.
Yeah, that's right, for sure. And it's such a good food source, right? And,
yeah.
So they sort of brought those things. And then actually a lot of the other stuff, like we have Himalayan tar, which was gifted to us. We have chamois out of Europe. We have elk, which was gifted to us, I think, from Theodore Roosevelt. We have white-tailed deer through the same means.
You have elk?
We have elk, yeah. Which interestingly enough, we call them wapiti, which I think is the native.
Which is the native name here. Yeah, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah. So we have a big herd of wapiti on the South Island. We have fallow deer from England. We have red deer from Scotland. We have sambar deer and rooster deer from I think Indonesia.
Wow, some big animals.
Massive animals, huge.
Yeah, elk, the sambar deer. The you guys have the stags there, right? So it's like a big deer.
Yeah, extremely big. And yeah, all that stuff was introduced, like gradually over time, like certainly to entice other people, in some cases to establish a fur trade, in some cases just quite simply to feed people. And all of those, there's no native mammal in New Zealand aside from some bats. So
okay. Similar again to Hawaii in that sense.
Yes, very similar to Hawaii.
What about marine mammals? There must have been some kind of seal or something that.
Yep. And so actually the first Europeans that came for seal and for whale. That was sort of
right. That makes sense. Yeah. What was the there was a large flightless bird that the Maori had. Yeah, so the moa was there, and that was sort of extirpated by the Maori, right? If I understand it.
Yeah, okay. Correct. So
how big is that bird? That's That's quite a beast, huh?
We'll get right back to the show in a moment, but first, I've got some good news about the WildFed TV show. You can now stream both seasons 1 and 2 on demand at myoutdoortv.com. That's myoutdoortv.com. My Outdoor TV is Outdoor Channel's premium online subscription service. They host thousands of episodes of hunting and fishing content, making this a great subscription service for anyone interested in the outdoors. But if you just want to see WildFed, grab yourself a free trial subscription and then check out all 20 episodes at no charge at all. If you decide to keep it, it's just $9.99 a month. We're currently in production for season 3 of WildFed, which should start airing around the beginning of 2023. Hey, thanks again for all your incredible support. If you haven't already, I can't wait for you to see the show.
Couple of different species. I don't have the exact specs, but they were certainly standing taller than men. So I think the tallest species was over 8 foot. Don't quote me on this. I don't know exactly, but they were huge.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts to know that we were so close to experiencing that.
Dude,
There's just so many species like that. Like when here in the States, I'm sure you've heard about our passenger pigeons, but I mean, what a phenomenon, and it's gone. Or the moa is another great example. Or there's just so many species that are and even some of that late Pleistocene stuff where you're like, man, it's just so close. There was mammoths 4,000 years ago. It's like
like how cool would it be to see that, right? Like how cool would it be?
Yeah.
And like the moa certainly would have been an impressive animal to hunt and to just to witness. And then the other thing that we had too was the haast eagle. The haast eagle was the main predator for the moa bird. So
okay.
Yeah, you imagine.
How do you spell that? I want to look that up.
Haast, Haast.
Okay.
They were massive.
So they were probably lost because the moa was lost?
I think so. I think the Maori eradicated their food source, and so I think they eventually died out.
That's definitely a large bird. Wow.
I think the largest eagle species that ever existed, I think.
Wow. Amazing.
So, but that sort of, discussion around like New Zealand. New Zealand is a frustrating environment in terms of like, it's both a total blessing and also extremely frustrating because I sit here all the time and I listen to you, I listen to Rogan, I listen to Renella, I listen to Vincent, and all of you guys are always talking about hunting, and it's almost become a little bit sort of synonymous with conservation in a lot of ways, right? So when you guys are looking at hunting, you have your tags and all that. So much of that money goes back into conservation and actually preserving these species, right? Here in New Zealand, unfortunately, because they're all introduced, quite often a lot of it is viewed fairly unfavorably, and especially as less
the
and
hunting
less,
or the species themselves.
The species themselves,
right?
I think hunting, unfortunately, is globally earned like a fairly bad reputation, right?
We're working on it.
Exactly. We are working on it. Certainly the aim through our show is to re-inspire people to get back into it. And I really want to encourage people to hunt for meat. That's sort of the big one, rather than hunting for trophies and stuff. But the this whole conversation, I get so envious when I listen to you guys talk about hunting, fishing, and how that quite often so beautifully ties back into conservation. Yeah. And here quite often there's talk of eradication and this and that, and they're all classed as pests, which that word itself just kills me. It's like, I understand where it comes from because, the deer eat lots of the bush. They eat lots of the grassland off of farmers' farms. And, certainly like these species are having a massive impact on the country, but pest, it's like, dude, like we're a pest, right?
We brought them too. I mean, it's not like they built boats and came over there. I mean,
I say this all the time.
We're so funny in this, the way we do that. It's like the glaringly obvious thing is that we would easily fit the description of a deleterious, exotic, non-native species that's invasive
and outcompetes all other species and depletes all resources, right?
At the expense of the ecosystem itself.
Totally. It has no natural capability to self-regulate in terms of numbers and all that.
It doesn't even have a decent predator that's not microbiological at this point.
Exactly. Bring back the short-faced bear.
Yes.
I mean,
short-faced bears in Manhattan.
I have a I have a friend who he used to always joke about going to politics, and his first act would be to create some ferocious animals that he'd release on the population because he thinks it would increase happiness.
I mean, we make so many movies about it. It's interesting that it would increase happiness. That's a really interesting perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm joking. Please don't take me serious. I'm not about to release any animals in this country. But have you ever looked into the work of Sebastian Junger?
Yeah,
Are you familiar?
yeah, of course.
You haven't had him on the show though, right?
I don't know. I've never interviewed him.
Have you read his book Tribe?
Yeah, I did.
I love that book. It's I feel like it's such a small book, right? But like everything he says in it is just so powerful.
It's really fascinating because I would notice over my lifetime that I would talk to guys who had been to war. Because here in the States, we've been at war for like 20 something years. So I talked to guys who come back and they talk about how it was awful and how it sucked. And then you would be able to tell it was maybe the best time of their life.
Right.
And it was like a conflict that you could feel like they missed it. They missed the camaraderie. They missed the closeness. They missed the mission. They missed the, that
purpose
sort of, that purpose, but also kind of sort of like if you went away to a camp or something where you're like, you're with your people kind of getting by through hardships and you have to rely on one another day in and day out and trust each other completely. And then you come back to a world where people are really fractured. Families are fractured. Neighborhoods are fractured. You don't really trust people. Everybody's competing against each other. And that's kind of sucks after you've been through this other thing. So yeah, I really get that. I've been, and this kind of harkens back to what you were saying about overtraining and stuff and kind of the stupidity of it, because this came up for me when you were saying that. But I've been listening to David Goggins' books, and what a psycho. Oh my God. Me and my producer, we call each other accountability buddies. We send each other our heart rate monitor readings from the workouts,
This is Grant.
Yeah, this is Grant. So, I'll always say, I'll send him a text like, what do you think David Goggins is doing right now?
Running.
What would David Goggins do? Or like if it's like, should we work out today? It's like, what would David do? But anyway, talk about somebody who's overtrained, but also somebody who I'm kind of like grateful did it because it shows you what's possible. But anyway, the reason I brought him up is this kind of the same message you were talking about with Sebastian Junger in the book Tribe is Goggins is always saying like, if you don't go out and suffer, like you're never going to feel fulfilled.
Totally.
Like the path of comfort is never the path of fulfillment.
No.
Happiness is kind of fleeting. Like I think we have to be careful about chasing too much happiness, but definitely fulfillment or satisfaction in life. And that comes through things being really hard. And like you said, I mean, if we had to survive against some kind of external threat constantly, probably would be happier. I noticed that we have a bit of that here in Maine when our winters are really tough and long. And so we just had like a long stretch with our electrical grid down. And the way it brings people together is just awesome. You're like all suffering. Nobody's got water and things suck and everybody's grumbling. You can't flush your toilets and you can't cook or whatever it is. And then for some reason, everybody's sort of sad when you're happy to get your comfort back, but you kind of miss it.
Yeah, exactly. I've sort of experienced this quite nicely twice myself. So in the years that I left Auckland and then sort of started doing my own thing, I eventually separated from my Canadian partner as well. And I moved around, so I sort of went and explored a few other parts of the country. I moved right down south to Queenstown, and down there it starts getting alpine, it starts to snow, and those harsh winters exist down there too. And for 3 months, I lived in a place called Paradise, which is aptly named. It's where they shot a lot of the Lord of the Rings films and that sort of stuff. So stunning environments, but very cold winters. And I was sort of part of a really small community there. And it was exactly that, it was hard and it was tough. We couldn't really go anywhere, and everyone bonded together, and that was a super special time. Like I'll never forget it. It was 3 or 4 months of just having an incredibly good time with a very small community that were bonded together through external pressure. Through like a remoteness and a coldness and all that stuff. Like it wasn't true hardship, but it certainly creates bonds, right? And
that's the thing that I, again, like I hate to even say the word because of the, like, here he goes again about CrossFit. But what I love about my gym the people that I'm making, developing friendships with there are people that I don't necessarily have anything in common with except going to that same gym,
Mm,
but I know what they are capable of.
mm,
And I see them grind it out. So I know, so I think about the places where I meet people who share my interests over the years, and I never really I don't get the kind of friendships I expect to in places where it's because you'd think, oh, I just got to find people who share my interests. And you're
mm,
like, oh, this person likes the same things as me. But then you find out oh, but I can't trust them, or they're
mhm.
shisty, or whatever it is. Like we don't see eye to eye on other things, or whatever it is. But then sometimes I'll meet people where it's like, we don't share anything in common except that I just know that they can struggle and make it through and they don't quit. And
Yeah,
then it's like, I'd rather that than somebody who shares my interests,
yeah, yeah. And do you think it's just external pressure that creates
Mm-hmm.
that environment?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess when you're training together, it's almost like it's like someone's instructing you to do it, right? It's not like you're all just. Oh, how do I say this? But there's an external component, right? Like there's
Right.
someone who's written up the WOD, right? Someone's made up that workout,
Mm-hmm.
and they're sort of making you do it in a sense. And so like that external pressure makes you bond together too, right?
Yeah. I just came back from a hunt gone wrong.
Oh,
Where
really?
Yeah, like a near boating disaster. I won't say a disaster. The boats are okay. Well, my boat's being repaired. The other boat got out. The trailers are pretty bad, but a boat. It's wintertime, stranded on an island, almost not getting out. By the end of the day, when we all finally get back to safety, the connections had strengthened significantly.
Significantly, right?
Yeah, you just know you've been through this thing together,
Yeah.
and it's an awesome. That's one of the things I love about the outdoors, because what you're saying, external pressures. There's this side of nature, particularly the side I think I'm always really trying to, I don't think culture needs any more. I don't feel like I need to contribute to the story of nature's a harsh bitch that will kill you. It's like
Hmm.
there's so much of that. I don't feel like I need to contribute to that. So I'm contributing more to the hey, let's remember how beautiful and welcoming nature is and how much she provides. But that said, it's, it can be pretty dangerous out there. And one of the things I love about doing things in the outdoors with people is that you have all those external pressures. It's
Yes.
temperature, it's climate, it's all these, all the things that go wrong. So I
Yeah,
like that a
exactly,
lot.
exactly. And that's sort of part of the message, I think, right? It's like get out there and do that thing, like get yourself dirty and sweaty and
Yeah.
bloody and do that thing, because when you come back, that's the thing, right? Like Steve Rinella always talks about sort of grading levels of fun, right? With I forget how he does it, but he sort of says like
Yeah, I think he says
right,
something like your memories, like the quality
yeah,
of how much you like the
yeah.
memory is how much it sucked in the moment, or something like that, right?
Exactly, exactly, and I think that's so true, right? Like I remember shooting my first buck. It was a fellow buck, and it was an arduous journey, man. I tell you, like we started hunting at 4 a.m. I shot the buck at 3 p.m. and I arrived back at my truck at just after midnight. So it was a damn long day.
Long day.
And like here in New Zealand, like a lot of the terrain that we hunt is steep, steep and thick. And
Yeah.
I was out there. We were basically carrying this animal through pitch black forest for I don't know, 6 hours. Like it was,
Wow.
and I nearly quit.
This is your
so many
first
times.
buck?
This is not my first deer, but my first buck.
Okay.
And man, I just remember coming back. I was bleeding. I was so tired. I've been carrying the entire animal on my back. We sort of tend to
Yeah.
do it here, where we basically cut the legs.
That's
So it
fun.
makes
I
it,
always see that. I always see that
yeah,
in pictures from out there.
yeah. It's just the done thing. You make a backpack out of the animal and then chuck it on your back and you carry it that way. Which quite often just has to do with the terrain. Like if you were going to drag it out or something like that, you just wind up with a carcass full of dirt. So you just couldn't do it. And then also we have, for some reason, our ticks don't like people.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, dude. I think of you guys every single time I see ticks,
Wow.
because we have them too. And we also have things like alpha gal. We don't have Lyme disease, I don't think, but
You do have alpha gal.
we have alpha gal. Yeah. I had a conversation with an epidemiologist a while ago, and he was like, "Yeah, no, we have alpha gal," which obviously to the listeners, it renders you allergic to red meat, right?
Yeah.
But
From what I understand, and for some people it seems like lifelong, and for other people it seems like they recover after some amount of time.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. But yeah, dude, for some reason, ticks in this country, they get on you and then they just kind of fall off again.
It sounded pretty good, man. I mean, I get what you're saying, like, because the grass is always greener. Like, you hear us talking about conservation. We do have this incredible, the North American model of conservation, goes back to Teddy Roosevelt and all that stuff. It's awesome to have that. It's also awesome to have our Second Amendment. Those are two things that I'm really grateful for. But the idea of there being no seasons and year-round hunting, it's like,
Dude,
and now you're telling me the ticks don't like people. It's looking pretty good.
It is, man. We have no snakes. We have no predators.
Oh man, that's awesome.
The most dangerous thing you could probably run into is either if a hog, like a boar, or in some pockets of the country we have what they call scrub cattle, which are basically escaped cows.
Okay.
And they can get pretty nasty.
I bet. Feral cows.
Yeah, like proper bulls, horns.
Yeah,
right. Like they're probably the only animal that'll have a crack back at you and they'll have a go. But aside from that, there's nothing. No predators, no snakes, no spiders.
Is the ocean dangerous there?
Well, there's sharks, but I have plenty of
friends.
I mean,
like the currents and such. Like, how's the? Australia is known for being like pretty.
Yeah, no, we do have that. The thing is, I don't mess with the ocean too much. Like I drowned nearly drowned a couple of times when I was a kid. So I have a naturally like a very high level of respect for
in
the
Europe
ocean.
or
in Europe, yeah. And so like
you get a water phobia in general, or I see you out on the water, obviously. So.
I do. I love fishing, and I have dived in the past too. But if someone would just put a spear gun in my hand and be like, "Hey, let's just get down there and don't worry about the sharks," they just want the fish. I'm like, nope, that's all you.
The tax man.
Yeah, the tax man. Did I read that you were getting into spearfishing at some stage?
Oh, I play with it a little bit, but I don't get much opportunity. Maine is not a great place for spearfishing. I'm hoping to go fish in the Bahamas, spearfish in the Bahamas this year for the show. Cool. But yeah, I'm pretty novice to it. But that said, I've taken freediving classes and done some spearing, both with slings and also with spear guns. But I don't get a lot of opportunity to. But I do. Yeah. I think it's amazing, and I love when I see people who that's their specialty. That's so cool to me because we were just talking about sort of. And maybe we'll come back to it, but because I was asking you about training, physical fitness and training versus sort of hunting. What's so cool to me is how in spearfishing you have this nervous system and respiratory regulation that you're having to do in order to participate. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome.
That is really awesome. That's like
don't necessarily need to be that physically fit, but you definitely need to have like control over your cardiovascular system and your respiratory system.
Yeah, definitely. No, it appeals to me too. And if I didn't have that sort of phobia of the water, because there's a whole chapter that there's a whole wild food chapter that I'm not participating in, and it does irk me a lot. There's crayfish diving. Okay. There's obviously the spearfishing. There's power, which it as abalone.
Oh, no kidding! Oh, dude.
Yeah, no,
that's good eats.
Oh yeah, no, it is. We have such a rich marine environment. Early Maori people would have subsisted like a lot from the ocean. That was definitely.
Wow.
So I sort of, no, it's a major, and like definitely, I have people hit me up all the time, like, "Hey, come for a dive, come do this," and I'm like, no.
Well, man, I think you should confront that. It's a new year coming.
I think you're right, and the more that we sort of grow, because things are moving up and up for us a little bit. The more we grow, and the more opportunity for collaboration that we have with other people. I think there'll come a time, and like I'll make a point of it too. Like I'm not going to be like, "Hey, look at me, I'm tough," and this doesn't bother me. I'll be like, "Nope, this scares the shit out of me."
Right.
But if I can do it with someone experienced, I think I'd give it a go.
I got to spearfish a little bit in Maine, and you may have heard me talk about it, but the water is cold and very murky. The visibility's bad, and most of the time. But I was like, whatever, I'm into it. I bought some thick wetsuits for me and my lady, and it was like, hey, we're gonna do this. But then we had a white kill somebody here off our coast a couple years ago, and ever since then, Avani's like, no, dude, that's she has this thing. She goes like, not worth it category, and I'm like, oh yeah, I get you, but it's like, come on, a little bit. She's like, no, not happening.
It doesn't bother you. It doesn't scare you.
It's kind of like, does lightning scare me? It's like, yeah, I don't want to get hit by it, but like, the chances are pretty low.
See, the thing for me is like, and this may lead back to the fitness side of things. I feel like, and I've been in that situation recently. We got charged by a wild pig. You know, it was a hunt gone wrong too, unfortunately, and ended up turning into the headlight, into the flashlight, and it charged us. Luckily, it wasn't a boar, but I just got up. I reloaded my rifle. I fired another shot, and then I sidestepped. You know. Like, and I have like through physical fitness, through martial arts, I have, you know, what I feel like is very good body awareness, and I have that sort of confidence in my system, in my human body on land, that I know that if something were to happen, I'd at least stand a chance. But in the water, man, you're the least capable creature out there.
My wife was a competitive synchronized swimmer when she was a kid.
Yeah,
and so last night we haven't been able to find any surviving video of her competing. So I've never got to like really see it. And I've never watched synchronized swimming. So finally last night we're like talking about it. We talk about it all the time, but it was like the first time I was like, you know, I've never watched a game of golf, but I know what golf looks like. But I've like never watched it, you know. I know what synchronized swimming looks like, but not from ever watching it. Like I've never watched it. So she started to like explain to me about the sport and how much time she'd have to spend underwater and the ways that she would use her hands. They would be taught to scull themselves because what parts of the body are sticking out of the water have to look completely graceful and at ease, even though underwater you're like the feet of a duck, like frantically doing things, you know? And when we're in the water, I have that experience because even though I lifeguarded and I've spent a lot of time in the water, I'm not good in the water, and I'm built like basically like a brick, so I'm not very buoyant. So I get in the water with her though. Like I remember she had to have lung X-rays in order to come into the States when we got married, and the doctors being like, "Hey, you have the biggest lungs we've ever seen." From her days of doing that, you know. When she gets in the water though, and the problem for her is diving, she can't get underwater effectively in a wetsuit without an exceptional amount of weight, like so much weight that whoever's leading the dive is like, "Hey, what are you doing? That's too much weight." And then they see that she can't get underwater. She's too buoyant. So yeah, but anyway, my point is, it's neat how there are people who can develop that where they are, because she's actually. She's also been going to the same gym with me, so she's learning to do a lot of things. You know, for instance, like box jumps were like terrifying to her. She started her box jumps onto like a 25-pound plate because she was like afraid to jump onto a box, you know.
Yeah.
But then you put her in the water, and it's incredible. It's like she's actually, until recently, probably better in the water than on land. But that's obviously very rare, right? So I get what you're saying, because it's scary. The other thing is it's very difficult to keep 360 awareness in the water, I find, for myself.
Yes.
So a shark coming up behind you is pretty scary.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you probably raise a good point, right? Like certainly some people are going to be more adaptive. You think about the sort of early Polynesians and even Maori and other coastal populations where like they seem so like Kimmy Swimmy, right? On Media, like she seems so at home.
She's amazing.
The war. Yes, I don't know. You've had her on the podcast as well. You know, it's like her home, right? Like she belongs there.
Yeah.
But me, I don't. You know, and I certainly
right.
But like, I guess it depends on what it is that you're training for. And like, just to sort of come back to the physical fitness, I do think it's absolutely crucial for hunting and for being in the outdoors that you have some kind of a level of like fitness, particularly for things like body awareness, right? I feel like through the training that I've done over the years, like I've got quite a good body awareness. So when I fall,
proprioception,
right? You know, when I fall and slip, which happens often, in a wet environment, my rifle is always pointing in the right direction, and I don't have to think about doing that. You know, it just does, right? So those years and years spent in the gym have definitely led to me being a lot more competent in the outdoors.
Do you guys have I'm sure you're familiar with the caricature of like the like fat hunters of the US, you know, like we have this. You don't have that there.
No, we don't. I certainly,
that
yeah, no,
Bubba hunting culture thing
yeah,
that we
yeah.
have.
No, I totally know what you mean. There isn't enough access with ATVs for that to exist.
It's too uphill.
We do, we do, we do
I
have
didn't want to
them.
bring up ATVs with that. I was going to keep it out. I actually thought to myself, like, if I say four-wheeler, he'll know what I mean. But I was like, I don't want to say that because it's going to burn somebody. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
that is a big part of it, is like traveling everywhere by truck or ATV.
Yeah. We do have some overweight hunters, but they'll be focusing on hunting on farms, like not
Yeah,
in the
right.
bush.
It's
You're
just
not
such a
gonna.
thing here, and you must have. It sounds like you're pretty hip to what's going on in the hunting culture over here.
Definitely.
It's interesting with Cam Hanes. He's disliked by a lot of people. He seems like such a great guy, and he seems like he has so much integrity, and I really appreciate him as a person. But man, it seems like he takes a lot of flack because people don't, because people feel like shit about themselves or whatever it is. It's like hard. It's that thing where people have a hard time celebrating the success of others because it makes them feel inadequate. And so I think it's that, because I don't feel like he's going around saying everybody needs to run a marathon a day or anything like that. It's just he just happens to do the kind of, because that backcountry hunting out west here in the States is rigorous. That's not the kind of hunting I do because I don't live anywhere like that, but that is pretty rigorous. So I could see how the cardiovascular fitness piece is really important. But anyway, he takes all this flack, and I, less in fitness but more in health, I'm trying to bring the nutrition and health component into this, because I think that's also something that's fallen away.
Huge.
And I would say I don't know if I'm not aware if I'm getting much resistance to that. I don't really feel any, but it's not been part of the culture. And I like what you're saying, because it does seem to me these things all interrelate. And it's amazing to me that they're siloed, like fitness over there, hunting over here, nutrition over here. It's like hunting is fitness and nutrition all wrapped up in an incredible pursuit.
That's it. I write hunting articles for magazines and stuff like that sometimes, and that tends to be one of the points that I talk about the most. It's like hunting isn't just hunting, right? Like it's not just going out and shooting something. It encompasses so much, from physical fitness to physical awareness to the awareness of the weapon of choice you're using at the time, to the health component of being connected to nature, the food that ultimately winds up on your plate and the connection to that. Like, it is such a broad thing, right? Like, if it was just shooting something, man, I could see why people are like, nah, I don't, this is not for us anymore.
I wouldn't be into it. I'd rather shoot targets than kill things as targets.
Totally. Right?
Yeah, I don't really. It doesn't really do anything for me. It's gross.
No, not at all. Like it's recently I've sort of I've killed a couple of animals that were basically tame, right? Like a farmer asked me to shoot a sheep, and had gone feral. Like, it just wasn't going to be part of the herd anymore. And he was like, I need this sheep killed, and he pretty much just said to me, hey, you know what, like, shoot this thing and I'll just drag it into the offal pit. And I was like, so you're not going to eat it? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I will shoot it for you, but I'm going to eat it. I'm going to take it all. And he was like, well, I have at it. And dude, it was like one of the most delicious things ever. But,
was it? Good.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. It was so fatty and so delicious.
Yeah.
This ewe had just been sitting on like piles of grass and just basically hadn't been moving much. So she was delicious. But the act of coming up, I was trying my hardest to like get up to this animal and like squeeze off a shot without her noticing. But unfortunately, she spotted me and she just stood there like chewing her cud. And I sat there for quite a while. I looked her through the scope. I took my finger off the trigger, and I just had this moment of like, man, this is not what I don't like this. This is shooting something just for the sake of doing that. But then I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, well, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And then this whole animal is going to go to waste.
It's purposeful, at least, what you're talking about. I mean,
Right.
I did an episode for this season 3 that we're getting ready to release on prairie dogs out west, which is like I don't know if you're familiar, but they're like a very social ground squirrel. Yeah.
Yes.
And mostly what people, so we go out there and shooting prairie dogs is something that lots of people do, but eating prairie dogs is something that like no one does. Well,
yeah.
I shouldn't say that, but not many people. Oh, you heard us talking about it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I just, so writing the voiceover for the show, it's like trying to touch on that a little bit. It's like what ends up happening is people just use them for target practice. And I just don't that's just not who I am. And
No.
I'm very comfortable with the act of taking a life. I just take it seriously. Now that said, I slap a mosquito. You know, you're like, you want to prey on me, we're gonna get down. But you know what I mean? That's different. That's
Yeah.
different. But like, I don't go out looking for mosquitoes to kill. You know, that's
Yeah,
a whole
right.
other thing. Right?
Exactly, and that's the difference, right? Like you're not out there to kill just because it's fun for you to do. You
Yeah.
know.
Tell me about the Am I interrupting? I've been
No,
jumping us all over the place.
not at all. Except the only thing that I thought was super interesting that you guys were shooting 17 HMR, right? For the
That's a new caliber for me. So what happened was we got out there, and one of the local guys, the guy who hosted us to hunt on his property, he was a Marine, and he had a 17 HMR, and he was like, "Do you want to borrow it?" And I was like, "I want to try with these 22s." I'm very comfortable with my 22, and I shoot the squirrels with them. So I thought it'd be great, but it's hard to get close to them, to the prairie dogs. The 17 HMR is something special. Are you familiar with the caliber? Do you know it?
Oh, dude, it's my caliber. It's what I shoot for
Oh, it
small
is.
game.
Oh man, what a weapon!
Isn't it? It's so funny. I was listening to you guys talk about it. I was like, finally, you found it. Like it's such a
What
caliber.
do you use it for? Like what animals do you want?
So I have killed goats with it through headshots. But it's probably, it's not my, I shoot a 2 to 3 usually for goats. But we have wallaby, which is a small introduced kangaroo from Australia.
Yeah.
They sort of,
Are they good to eat?
Oh man,
They
honestly,
must be awesome.
Last night someone asked me about my favorite meat, and I might put that up there. It's great.
What are the travel restrictions to get into New Zealand right now?
I'm starting to get you interested, huh?
I'm very interested, dude. I've been interested ever since I saw you foraging kiwi fruits. I was like, you're kidding me.
Oh, you watched that? Cool. Yeah. Oh man, we have so much stuff here. Like it's unbelievable. And hey, if you ever want to come out, I'll host you for sure. I think
season 4 is a real possibility, man. So I want to talk about that. But sorry, go on. So you're saying the wallaby?
Yeah. So wallabies, and then obviously we have hare, we have turkeys, we have peacocks, which I quite like to hunt.
Oh, dude, I just saw that. I'm like, man, I really want to eat a peacock.
They're great. They're a pheasant, so they taste just like pheasant, just bigger.
Oh, that's awesome.
And again, like introduced to New Zealand, liberated, became feral, incredibly intelligent bird. Like much like the turkey, right? They'll see you coming from so far away, and they'll just dance circles around you. You see him in one spot, and then you just dip behind a dip, and you pop back up the other side, expecting him to be there, gone, like for sure.
I need to make a whole season there. I just need to come out there for a whole season of episodes because there's so much to do.
Yeah. Oh, there is so much to do, man. Like this country's so full. It's like,
and like you're saying there's not. It's not like it's peafowl season. Oh, now it's rabbit season. Now it's stag season. It's all open all the time.
Aside from game birds, so peacock definitely aren't part of that, but ducks, pheasants are. So we do have a season for
some
that.
Regulations on that,
but it's only because those species face a potential decline if we were to hunt them year round. Everything else.
I think I saw Remy Warren hunting geese with a rifle out there, and I was like, "Wow, you can, man, that opens up possibilities."
So Canadian geese actually used to be on the game bird register, and they used to have a season, and then they just exploded. So right now you can shoot them with anything you want at any time.
Wow.
So the only thing about New Zealand, man, it's, if you, especially on the South Island, you just have such an abundant opportunity on public hunting land. There's so much you can do. On the North Island, things tend to get a little bit more restricted. Like right here where I live in Tauranga, which is a sort of a smallish coastal town. There's geese everywhere. Absolutely.
Which island are you on now?
I'm on the North Island.
Okay.
I'm on the east coast of the North Island.
So more tropical side.
Yeah. I wouldn't call this town tropical. Like right now it's summertime, so it's gorgeous. But if you want to go tropical,
more temperate. Though you're saying in the southern island is where you're getting more closer to the poles. So obviously you're going to southern latitudes. It gets cooler.
Yeah, totally. And it actually gets dramatically cooler quite quickly. So the southern tip of New Zealand is, I think, the third closest country or the third closest part to the South Pole after Argentina and Peru.
No kidding.
So down there it gets cold, right? And here we're quite. I think this is semi-tropical up here, and then you travel another 4 hours far north, and it's just winterless, white beaches and palms and stuff.
Man, I want to go. My wife spent a couple months kayaking around the islands there, so she's always telling me about it, but I've never been.
Yeah, no, I know. I heard that too. It's funny, man. I've been listening to you. Like, I haven't missed a single one of your podcasts
Oh,
since
okay.
I started.
I sit here like I talk to you like we're just meeting, and then you have a little bit of insight into my
You know what?
stories.
It's so funny because I wondered what this conversation was going to be like. Because I feel like I know you quite well, right? Like, it's this like
That's so
strange phenomenon.
fascinating.
Because I've
Yeah,
been
that's
listening
so
to you for such a
fascinating.
long time. Like, I was listening. I think I started listening to you around season 2 of Rewild Yourself.
Okay, yeah, it's a long time. See,
It's a
yeah,
long
you're
time.
also aware of like subtle shifts in my my life over time and stuff, or not subtle shifts. I want to
No,
go back real quick to the 17 HMR. I'm worried that people listening are like, wait, what are they talking about? Some
right.
people are going to know, but just for people listening, the 22 is your sort of standard small game round, and that is like
Mhm.
a funny little round-nosed rimfire cartridge. The 17 HMR is actually a smaller bullet because it's 0.17 of an inch.
Mhm.
But man, that thing looks like a little rifle cartridge, right? It's like a
Yeah,
little
right.
little pointy bullet,
Has that
and
little
it's
hole in my tip.
zippy and fast. I was hitting, out past 180 yards on some of those prairie dogs, whereas with
Mm.
the 22, it's like 50
Mm.
yards is a pretty good shot, 60 yards would be a long shot or whatever. So I was just really impressed with that cartridge. Um, it, the meat damage was more, but not horrible.
Mm.
But anyway, I just think that's really cool that that's what you're using. So anyway,
and
carry on.
and and uh and you get much more of a chance of a headshot, which
Mhm.
is obviously, like, if you're going to shoot small game and you want to eat it, that's your target, right? Like, you want to hopefully try and get it somewhere around the head or neck.
I didn't
um
get to play with the cartridge enough to. It seems like it would be very accurate because of its speed, but I
it's
didn't get to.
extremely accurate.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I love it. I came across it a number of years ago, and I was just like, I have to have one of these, and
Is
I
it hard
bought
to
it.
resource it out there, or you have a hard time feeding it? Like,
No, no, it's not. But it is, like, you wouldn't believe the ammunition prices out here. It's like what
yeah, I
you
bet.
pay plus export costs, right,
Yeah,
or import.
right. And
So
it's getting
I think,
expensive here too, so I'm sure it's even worse.
what do you pay for a box of 17 HMR, like a 50 round?
I wouldn't even know right now. Let me look it up. See if I can find something because yeah, I don't. When I buy ammo in large quantities and tuck it
Mm.
away, you know.
Okay, right, yeah, smart.
So let me see. I'll let you know if I come up with the.
I can't even do that. We can't do large quantities. I think I can. Especially right now, because ammunition coming out of the States is being restricted, and particular, like, certain calibers. So, like, my go-to caliber for a large game is a 708, which it's not a hugely popular caliber in the States, from what I understand.
What is the count? What is it?
7 mil '08,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
which is
it's used here.
yeah, no, it's used, but it's not like
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
not
one of the
not the
more.
most common. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Agree.
So that's starting to get really difficult to come by.
Um,
Um,
I'm looking at prices now, but you said for 50. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like you can get it here for $20 a box, probably.
okay, so
It's
that's
not
maybe
bad.
not too far removed. I think I pay 45 New Zealand dollar, which is
Yeah.
it's going
Wow,
to be a
man. But
little
what
bit
is
more.
the how does it work out there with regards to owning firearms? Like, first of all, can you own? You probably can't own an AR-15 there. I'm assuming.
Not anymore.
Okay.
So we, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, had a mass shooting.
Yep.
Like, it's one of those subjects. It's New Zealand traditionally has been a hunting nation, and, like, we've had firearms for a long time, and it's actually one of the nations with the lowest firearm incidents. Like, shootings here are very, very rare, or at least used to be. And unfortunately, this one idiotic psychopath unleashed at a mosque and
Yeah.
killed a bunch of Muslim, which are just absolutely atrocious. But he did it with semi-automatic military style guns, and our prime minister at the time just took that opportunity and basically set a stop to that.
Right. Yeah,
Being a,
because that would have happened here a long time ago, except that there's like a constitutional
yep,
stop, to
yep,
or I guess backstop to that. But yeah, that's a hard one because with that, it's funny when you hunt, like that cartridge is so limited, but it's the
oh,
semi-automatic nature of it. But then that also gets challenging because like I don't hunt deer with a semi-auto. I don't really need to, but I definitely hunt pigs with a
mm,
semi-auto, and I hunt squirrels with a semi-auto. So it's like the idea of
yep,
like semi-auto is just bad for some reason, doesn't really make sense. And then the idea like the AR is this high-powered gun where you're like, dude, it's a coyote gun at best. But okay, can
mm.
you have a handgun out there?
You can, but it's very, very strict rules. So you can only have it at home and at the range. Like if you were caught carrying a handgun anywhere, you'd immediately lose your firearms license.
Right. And then what
So,
about for your standard like bolt action gun or something like that?
so totally fine to have, but also the regulations are starting to get tightened now. It's a little bit like what's happening in Canada right now, and things are just beginning to be more restricted. Which it's a tough one, man. In some ways, I think it's good. I don't really want to see people walking around with handguns on the street.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have like increases in firearms incidents we have quite a strong gang culture in New Zealand, so they're starting to be more firearms related incidents, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
But I think we sort of chatted about this on some stage on Instagram. I was like, it would feel so natural for me to carry a sidearm on my hip. And I really wish I was allowed to, at least when I'm hunting, like things like hogs, for instance. I noticed one of your episodes recently on the WildFed show, you were hunting hogs and you had a sidearm with you, right?
Same with bears. When I hunt bears, it
just makes sense.
Definitely something that's in close that works well in close, or something when you need to, whatever, you dispatch something up close. It's helpful to have. And then also like if you're getting charged by something, I mean, it seems smart. I've had it where it's like, I shoot a bear and it's dusk. It comes in at last light and you shoot the bear and then it's on the ground somewhere. It's like walking up to it. I don't just want a pistol. I want a pistol with a light on it.
Yes.
Because that's pretty nerve-wracking, going searching for a wounded bear in the woods in the dark without a defensive gun. Not my favorite. But it's interesting. I get what you're saying because it's a little complex. I think the challenge when you have a gang culture is that those people know that you don't have a gun.
Yes, yeah, precisely.
And that leads to more of that kind of victimization.
It does.
But then like that whole, what do they call it with nuclear weapons? It's like mutually assured destruction.
Yes,
mad,
exactly.
Right? So it's like, well, let's all have weapons. And then I know that escalates too. But then you look back through human history, this is kind of like the first time in history that the average man, let's say, wouldn't have a weapon. Like going all the way back to like Australopithecus or something, probably.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. I just had this conversation with someone else the other day too, where like there's like foraging in New Zealand is a little bit of a different beast. And like technically from public land, you're not allowed to take anything, like no plant matter. It's not enforced. And like if you did, like no one probably would come for you. But there's a few regions where I like to hunt and there's science saying like, don't take anything. It's like
similar here.
It falls into the same category for me. It's like, I would like to know that in my home, I can have a handgun. And if you try to break into my home or harm me or my family, I have the right to defend myself. Like, I wish that was the case. And to me, it's the same category as saying that I have the human ancestral right to go out into nature and feed myself from the landscape, there's this like bizarre.
But then there's the tragedy of the commons.
Yeah, no, there is that, and sure, like with firearms, with the handgun, I can understand where that's coming from, but it's sort of it all gets lost in this like huge movement towards like people just not being self-sufficient, right? It's
the direction that people are moving is so dystopian,
isn't it?
It's amazing not just the speed and willingness, but like almost the frothing at the mouth to get there.
Yeah.
Like the speed at which people are embracing technologies that are making them hurt and making them sick and making them mentally ill. And they just seem to like always be signing up for the next one. And it's like, it's a very confusing time. Yeah. And then I think a lot of us are pulled along with inertia. It's like not what we would necessarily want, but to opt out is to be left behind. Yeah. And when you're in a capitalist society, to get left behind is not a good thing. Yeah, so exactly. You strive to keep up, but yeah, it's a complex moment. And I wish that almost like envy. I don't really envy it because it just looks like ego to me. But like when I see somebody who's just got a strong stance without seeing the nuance on the other side of their argument, it's like, oh, that must be nice. Versus what you're saying now, it's like, hey, I want this, but I see why there's people who don't want that, and I get that, and there's conflict in that. Like that's harder to that kind of nuance is harder to live with than just like, I just want to have my guns, or like I want to get rid of all guns. It's like it's a very
no, totally. I think the problem with such a simple world is you don't get good argumentation. You don't get someone who's going to make a good case. It takes intelligent people, I think, to make change and to inspire a movement. If we're just talking about wild food, I think, and I'm incredibly grateful to like the work that you do and other people in that field are doing as well. It's because it is, I think, igniting sort of a passion again in some people. And like we're talking about people like moving away from this sort of this human way of life, right? Like everything, the movement, the mindset, the culture, the hunting, the fishing, the connection to the outdoors. Like we're talking about like moving away from that. I also think that there's a really large part of the population that's beginning to realize that they're actually craving that, that they're like they want to be. You see it in the social media, like I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, we do Instagram and TikTok, and there's something about those like short videos, that where there's like beauty and there's fire and there's food, and not so much the hunting and fishing side of things on there, but at least the food, and people just love it. They absolutely love it. They want to consume that content, which I think is just, it's just their like desire to feel that, to have that, to be that, that's like shining through. And my hope is, right, that this kind of work, like your work, other people's work, is serving to re-inspire people to like just go, just get out and just do something that'll reconnect you to that way of life.
Man, the food piece. I've seen, like I'll see on social media. It wasn't very long ago, maybe a couple months ago, you were making some enormous burger. That was like, oh my God, just watching that was like, just my mouth just watering, like watching you assemble that thing. Yeah, the food piece is so universal, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it transcends everything, culture, language, ideology. That's like shocking, especially in this current environment, that you can just instantly transcend ideology with food is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Obviously food can be ideological too, but it's just like, that seems to be the answer. And I think you and I have both been hitting on this, is like, we're not doing this stuff. We're doing this stuff for the food piece. So that's really what's going on anyway. Here we are talking about guns or talking about hunting, but really we're talking about food.
Yes.
And I think that's what's frustrating when you meet somebody who's against these pursuits, because they're seeing the hunting and the killing and the guns, and they're not seeing the food piece clearly. And you're like trying to tell them like, hey, no, this is about food. And it's amazing to me how long hunting media went on without that component.
Yep. In fact, it's the opposite, right? Like I often think about the stupidity of trophy hunting. I get it. I love big antlers. I love tusks. I love feathers. Like I have all those things. But to think about like an early human coming back with just a head and some antlers, the entire tribe would be like, what the hell are you doing? Where's the rest of this animal, right? Like, and you're dead right. Like the media around hunting has so long been so trophy centric.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's like absolutely paramount. And the food piece, I think, is the piece that sells it, right? It's the thing that I think makes people, even vegans, if you get the right vegan in the conversation, they're like, yeah, okay, I get that. I
get a lot of that from people, actually. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard you say this many times. We're like, in the ideology, vegans are closer related to hunters than they are to the average person just consuming whatever is in front of them, right?
I was watching a video this morning about nanotechnology in food. I wasn't aware that a lot of additive ingredients are nanotech now. And really? Some countries are banning them. Like I think it was France has banned titanium dioxide because they're worried about. So the way it's working right now is there's additive ingredients that can be the ingredient that has been used and generally recognized as safe, and then there's the nano-sized particle version. So titanium, I think, has been used. Maybe it's titanium dioxide. I'm not sure. But anyway, some form of it has been used in food before, but not this nanoparticle size. But no one's regulating it. It's up to the food manufacturers to regulate it, and they don't have to label it. So all these things are starting to go into the food supply because they color food or they change texture or whatever it is. And we just don't really know if these things bioaccumulate, where they bioaccumulate. And the person in the video was talking about asbestos,
Mm.
or when, 20,000 physicians recommended Camel cigarettes or whatever it
Right,
was,
right. Yeah.
it's like, it's so funny. Like, no, they say it's safe. It's like, yeah, they said lobotomies were safe. Like, what are we
Right.
talking about here? So, here we are again. And now food's going nano, and I'm always going on about this 3D printed food phenomenon, which I think
Mhm.
is going to be um, devastating to that connection to what food it even is.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing is just it's funny. Like I'll talk to people and I'll realize, like, because to me, this idea of wild food is so important. It's so
Mhm.
important. And then I meet people who are like, they don't know why I think that because they've never really thought about it. And in
Mm.
their world, it's not important at all. In fact, it's like extremely unimportant.
Mm.
And then I love to make the case for somebody. I have a slideshow that I do where I make this case for people of like why it's so important, because we're on this trajectory to basically live divorced from all other life forms but ourselves. It's just so dystopian to me.
Yeah.
But if we at least right now, when somebody goes out and gets like chicken legs, you can look at them and go like, those are legs of an animal.
Yeah.
I'm worried about when it's like printed and or lab grown, and then you just start to lose touch with what these things even are anymore.
Yep, that's my fear too. And like you said, like it seems like this whole movement is just accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't help but think that it's a lot of it's just by design. It's like let's dissociate people even further from the things that really make them human, because that way they'll just be more complacent and just like be happy to work away. Get your little tray of like lab grown steak, consume that. Watch some TV, scroll through some stuff, and just get on with it. And
Yeah,
it's
work on
it's
your social credit.
it's terrifying, man. Working your social, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's terrifying.
Well, that's what's interesting is that this, like, when you think about what defines Homo sapiens, like hunting and gathering is one of the things that defines us. Um, it's funny that it's now a revolutionary act.
Yes.
Like that's where we are, is these things of like walking outside barefoot or, you know, like getting sun on your naked body or
Uh-huh.
eating a wild food. These are like becoming revolutionary acts, and yet they are biologically normal behaviors for us.
Yeah.
I've been so I've got a puppy at home, Diaz,
Yeah.
and his mother, Ellie. And Ellie is in heat right now, so it's kind of challenging because Diaz is 7 months old. He is going crazy from the smell of her.
Wow.
And he's trying to hump her constantly.
Yeah.
She hates it. She's barking at him all the time to get him
Yeah.
away. He doesn't know like why the word motherfucker is such a serious swear for us. It's like,
Seriously,
that's
yeah.
like a major taboo, bro. You don't
Yeah.
do that. But he doesn't know. But he's also a little immature still. I don't think he could actually, impregnate her or anything, but he's still got this humping instinct. So we've bought these diapers for her, like that have a little tail hole. It's like a
Right.
fabric diaper thing. And that way he can't,
Yep.
really, or anybody can get up on her like that. So it's looking at a dog wearing clothes is hilarious.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it looks so funny. And then I think, what does a chimpanzee think when it looks at a person?
Right.
Because it's like, look at this ape covered in
Yeah.
all these clothes. Like it's so, we don't think we look ridiculous. We think we look kind of funny naked, I guess. But like you see an animal in clothes and it's like, ha, 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 ha. So it's like how far we've come, It's fascinating.
And then of course we do it, right? We stick them all into clothes. we put suits on monkeys and stuff, and yeah,
It's very entertaining.
it's this ridiculous like shifting baseline, right? What's normal today? And I mean, I have it all around me. My own brother, actually most of my family, they don't want to eat wild game, and one of my younger brothers, he's just so adamant that it's just like he's like, why do you shoot things? Why do you shoot things? And I'm like, because I then eat it and then I know where it came from. It's like, yeah, but I don't get it. You can just buy the meat. You just buy it. And then you don't have to have anything to do with that, which comes from quite a sweet nature. He has a very sort of, he's a pacifist, he doesn't like violence. And I get where it's coming from, but I keep trying to say to him, dude, it's worse. Like if you don't know where it came from, how it lived, like like those chickens that you buy, man, they've had atrocious lives, very short, very atrocious lives. They never got outside to experience what it's like to be a normal chicken, or like to be a normal anything outside, moving, being free, having sunshine, eating a normal diet. And that disconnection piece in him is so evident.
It's funny because I know this is very different because there's violence involved in killing to eat. So I know it's different, but you wouldn't say to somebody whose thing was like making, let's say somebody was really into model cars. They like to build model cars and paint them. You wouldn't be like, well, you can just buy the model car finished. Why do you do that? Like no one would say that. Or if somebody was like knitted sweaters, you wouldn't be like, you can just buy a sweater. Why would you do that? But with this, because of the component of having to kill, but again, that's biologically normal for us. So it's just interesting psychologically. Yeah, we've come pretty far, man. But anyway, I really appreciate what you're doing. I like that you're out there doing it, and I really want to come out there and experience New Zealand because it seems like you are in a very unique. You have a very unique hunting opportunity there. So like when you're saying like, oh, wow, it sounds amazing over there. It sounds kind of amazing over there too. And when I look through your YouTube videos, it's like, whoa, look at all these species. They're from all over the world. Man. It's like, it's pretty amazing. So, whether or not people get it or wherever it's headed, it's like the opportunity out there, it seems incredible to me. I'm going to definitely have to chase you down. So you'd be a fixer for me if I came out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we became ambassadors for a program here called Hunting HQ, which enables us to basically have access to a whole lot of different. It's farm hunting mostly. So basically, it's they're kind of acting as a middleman. So they're connecting hunters and farmers, or hunters and landowners, right? So you actually have access to some much better hunting grounds that way. So certainly, like if you want to come this direction, there's going to be so much opportunity, and I have a lot of friends who are into it over here.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd love to show you around.
Yeah, and if you ever make your way to the States, we're happy to show you around. So, this is that conservation piece is you hear us talking about. It's not like you see it everywhere when you're hunting, but it's definitely part of the culture here, and it's pretty amazing. And I don't know. I'm just glad that around the world, because watching New Zealand over the last couple of years, I felt like, whoa, it's not as free of a place as I thought it was. And so I'm glad to see that this is something that still exists there, that you can still do.
Yes, it definitely is. And there's a strong culture, and it'll survive. I think it has such a strong root in the system. It's just the conservation piece. I sincerely wish that we can come to a better place where we can recognize these game species as a treasure and as a
They're
resource.
Not going anywhere, right? It's not like you're going to eradicate them, are you? I mean, are there eradications that are really happening?
Yeah, they really are. Yeah.
Really?
Is it possible? No, I don't think so. I think without us being eradicated at the same time, it's not possible. But they do something here, which is they drop something called 1080, sodium fluoroacetate, I think it's called. And it's basically like one of the most lethal poisons known to man. And just,
oh my gosh.
What they do with it is they take bait like carrots and stuff and dye it in this stuff. It's bright green, and then they just load them.
How do you avoid it as a hunter? You just know where it's been dropped?
So the Department of Conservation has a legal obligation to notify hunters where they're dropping it. So it's not a secret. If you go onto their website, it'll show you exactly where the drops have been, and they basically say just don't go in here for the next year. But it's an incredibly indiscriminate killer, and it's atrocious to watch. Like things. I think it takes like 12 hours or something ridiculous for these animals to expire in probably some of the most like excruciating circumstances that you can think of. So I would love to see something in this country shift and change for more people to get back out there and hunt these animals for meat than to resort to these resources.
Wow, I didn't realize this was even an issue. So it's not just the poisoning, but the lack of a conservation ethos there. In the hunting world. So that's really fascinating.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, people would tell you that this is conservation, right? Because people want to see native,
return to
right.
It's just like good luck, man. I mean,
good luck, and it's ridiculous. Like people talk about eradicating the rat. Like, seriously, you're going to eradicate the rat?
You're not the first to try this.
the master, the undisputed master of survival, and we're going to eradicate.
We're long gone, and the rats are still there. Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Wow. Hey man, it's been awesome talking to you today. I'm glad to finally connect. It's like I know your face so well, and your voice, but like it's really cool to talk to you. So yeah, thanks so much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to getting out there.
Yeah, 100%. It's been fantastic to connect, man. Like I've been following your work for a long time, And also just want to say, man, thank you for what you do, because I think it is crucial. And I don't know, sometimes I wonder where who watches my stuff and if it has any impact whatsoever. But me sitting here and talking to you, I can tell you for sure that your work's had a huge impact on my life and the trajectory of what I do. It's sort of given me ideas, inspirations, and almost permissions in a way to pursue this path. So, this is a very personal thank you for the work that you do. It's very meaningful to me.
That means a lot to me, man. Thank you. I don't always, I get comments and stuff, but I don't always necessarily receive that stuff so well. So yeah, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the WildFed podcast. You can help us grow this show by subscribing and leaving us a rating and review. It ensures better rankings and more advertiser interest, which translates directly into better shows, more awesome guests, and a constant stream of fresh new content. Have a podcast guest or topic suggestion, or maybe a hunting, fishing, or foraging trip you'd like to host the WildFed TV show for? Email us at info@wild-fed.com. If you still haven't seen season 1 or 2 of the WildFed TV show, go to myoutdoortv.com, grab yourself a free trial subscription, and then check out all 20 episodes. Season 3 of WildFed premieres on Outdoor Channel in early 2023. And be sure to visit our website, wild-fed.com, to check out our store for WildFed shirts, hoodies, hats, stickers, and more. WildFed. Food is all around you.